Along their spiritual journey, many people experience a lot of fear and discomfort, especially when taking part in non-dual self-inquiry, because you're really itching away at the very aspect of who you think you are. And this who you think you are that's been conditioned over the years is really the holy grail for you. It's really what you see life as. And there cannot be any other reality apart from yourself being at the center of this reality with the persona and the character and the image you've developed and conditioned over the years. And so when taking part in self-inquiry, itching away at that, looking at it for what it really is, can bring about a tremendous amount of fear. And the fear isn't necessarily always the fear of losing oneself, of losing the separate self, of losing the sense of familiarity to this image that we are holding on to so tightly but is causing us a lot of suffering at the same time. It can also be the fear of the unknown, the fear of the mystery, of once we see through the separate self, we see how transparent it really is. The fear of what life will look like and what life will be like. What's behind that door? Or sometimes it feels like you're on the edge of a cliff and you're about to fall, and really the only way to find out is you have to fall. You have to go all in to realize what's at the bottom of the cliff. So maybe you might realize that there is no cliff altogether. And it was really just a play of the separate self so that it retains its control through the use of emotions. That could be one plausible outcome. But at the end of the day, this is something that I encourage everyone on this journey to continue to investigate, the sense of separate self. And whatever fear or obstacle you may find, whether it's a past trauma, a memory, I myself found a lot of fear. Fear that is blocking me from moving forward. Fear that is stopping me from really just turning around and turning inward to observe honestly and sincerely. And so this fear, after some time, I thought, look, let's have a look at this fear. Let's observe the fear. What's the fear trying to do? When you are in any situation in life and fear arises, what is it really trying to do? The fear is trying to protect you. If you are somewhere in a jungle and there's tigers all around you, and these tigers haven't eaten in a while, and you see the ferocious, hungry look on the tiger, it will instill fear in you. And if it doesn't instill fear, then perhaps something about your biological mechanism may not be working properly. But in essence, it will instill fear in you. And that fear is telling you it's time to go, or it's time to do something just to survive. So the fear is trying to protect you. And so subsequently, when you continue to observe this fear, or when I at the time continued to observe this fear, I found that there is actually space for a tiny bit of appreciation. I can start to appreciate this fear because it's trying to protect me. You can appreciate this biological mechanism, the way it's all being orchestrated to protect this. And the fear is such a strong feeling, it's so potent, and it really just completely shifts your reality. Fear cannot usually also distinguish exactly what you are fearful about. When you are in a state of fear, wherever you look, there is fear. When someone might speak to you after this fear is triggered, you might fear this person. When a thought comes along, it might be incorporated with fear. So fear doesn't really have a distinguishment, but in essence, we can find a space to appreciate the presence of that fear that is, in essence, trying to protect us. How beautiful. And so once we find appreciation, we can then find space for understanding. Okay, this fear is there to try and protect us, and we are grateful for this protection. Now we have space for a but. But, is it really needed? Looking around, there is no tiger that's going to attack me. And all I'm doing is asking a very simple question. Who am I? That's all that's happening. But the fear remains, perhaps, because when there is fear around trying to protect the sense of self, the identity that's been cultivated and conditioned over the years, it's actually no different to trying to protect the physical body. And I mentioned this earlier, that fear doesn't really have a distinguishment. If you are in a state of fear, something needs to be protected, whatever it is. And so your reactions to the immediate environment will be through a fearful lens to justify this feeling of fear. And so it could be running away or being in a stressful fight or flight state. And so whether the fear is of something real or of an idea, of losing a particular idea, that fear is the same, because the body can't distinguish between a physical sense of fear, of you being almost attacked, or an idea that's being attacked. This is why when very patriotic people, let's just say, if you come and say something against the country that they really believe in and that they really love, they'll feel as though they are physically being attacked, and they will do everything to protect this attack. They will justify, or they will attack you back for what you've said. Anything that is rooted in your identity is to be protected, in essence. And that, by the way, is also the root cause for most wars in the world, if not all of them, for any form of conflict that arises. And so when you start to really question that narrative that we have adopted over the years, the fear can arise. It can really feel as though you are dying when you ask the very root of this identity. But we can appreciate the fear for what it's trying to do. It's trying to protect. It may be a blind mechanism. It may not understand that certain aspects of life actually don't need protection. Sometimes there's fear from something that is also inevitable, such as death. So you can live your entire life fearing something that is inevitable, or you could have lived the entire life being joyful. And then when death arrives, it arrives. So observing and understanding fear. So it starts with the appreciation. Thank you, fear, for trying to protect me. I understand why you are trying to protect me. But not every circumstance, not every instance requires your protection. So if you choose to remain, you may remain. If you choose to go, you may go. Either way is fine, because we have understood fear. And so I hope that this somehow gives you an understanding or some insight into how delicately and how we can perhaps deal with these intense emotions. One of the biggest I experience is the fear of spiritual awakening. So I hope you've gained some insight from this. Thank you so much for watching. This is Hassan from The Spiritual Walks, and we are all on a journey towards the truth.